I am so humbled to be here and asked to make a presentation today at the AECT 2020 convention. My presentation is called Instructional Design from the Ground Up. And what I will be presenting is a process and some foundational tools that can be used when building a series of training modules. I will go over some challenges and solutions that can be encountered when working with subject matter experts, content design, content curation, and development. So the objectives today that I will be focused on are creating workflow development forms to organize content needed from stakeholders and subject matter experts. Also, to be able to explain the connection between accessibility and user experiences necessary to provide an engaging learning environment to a culturally diverse audience. And we'll also explain the connection between audio and visual media quality and learner engagement in order to stimulate prior knowledge. So let's start with the production workflow. This is where I developed some tools to streamline and manage the project. I review some ID theories and principles as well as tools I use in the project management for course development. I always keep the principles of instructional design in the forefront of my mind when developing. Some things such as clearly defined objectives, stimulate prior knowledge, provide adequate feedback are just a few of the many. Keeping these principles consistent supports best practices, techniques. The learning must use sound instructional design principles. So based on the ADDIE model, analyze, design, development, implementation, and evaluation, along with the backwards design model, I created a workflow process model that helps as a guide through the details of course development. I also really focus on motivational models and specifically the ARCS model. Because e-learning and asynchronous training does revolve a lot around self-regulated learning. So motivation is a big part of that. Some other things to think about before beginning is accessibility. When accessibility is implemented in a training, it makes it more accessible and enhanced to everyone, not just people with disabilities. So courses designed with the following accessibility features in mind: screen readers, closed caption, color contrast, alternate text, unlimited access to resources. These are things that help everyone, not just people with disabilities. Also, technology is something to really think about, and it has given us the opportunity to access a huge variety of engaging multimedia platforms. But we can also communicate with diverse groups of people. This includes the variety of ways instructors can collaborate and communicate with their students. Also access to primary resources, library access. And then also technology gives us the opportunities to use engaging activities like gaming, animation, audiovisual infographics, and interactive activities. So the case study I will refer to in the project I was assigned to while working at the University of Tennessee Extension, within Family and Consumer Sciences, they created a series of competencies that needed to be mastered by Extension agents. It was my job to work with the FCS specialist to gather curriculum content, create the objectives for each module, align these with the competencies that they had previously created, and develop the training modules using Articulate Storyline 360 as the authoring tool. So FCS is made up of 4 knowledge areas. So each of these knowledge areas would have modules that address the competencies that they needed to, that the agents needed to master. So under each module then, some topics would be created, knowledge checks would be reviewed throughout, and then finally an assessment. So when I created the workflow process model, it really gave the entire team a way to look at the phases and what to expect in each phase of the process. So using the ADDIE and the backwards design model, I developed this process model to assist in the project management. I also created at the beginning a timeline, based on consultations with the specialists and what their schedules look like, when they might be able to get me curriculum, what I might be able to work on while another one was being approved. So this Gantt chart really helped reveal week by week what the progress could look like. I then also created a 4-part toolkit. I called it my SME toolkit to help them organize, deliver, and review their materials. Under each part are tools which guide and management of the e-learning. These were just forms and training tools, some resources that they could use if they chose to. So it began with the workflow tools. So I would provide them a copy of the workflow process model. And then they also had access to a shared status spreadsheet. Also, we used Trello boards, and this was a shared management system that I'll show you in a moment. Accessibility resources to try to give them some tools and training on the best way to make activities engaging, and then also a production schedule. So it was an ongoing changing production schedule as things came up. So the Trello board was the production management tool that we used. And the creative team used this for different projects. I used it specifically for, I had one board specifically for e-learning development. Each phase of the development process was created as a list, and then cards could be navigated through the different phases. The cards were essentially the modules. Emails, files, hyperlinks, and all kinds of correspondence could be included in the cards. So some of the phases for the development included consultation phase, content and transcript development, multimedia received. If there was videos I needed to edit, they would be put in that list. A rough draft approval period, accessibility edits, audio recording. So then some of the final phases, and this is actually just a close-up of one of the cards so you can see what it looks like, some of the different links that can be included, participants. So some of the final phases in the board would be testing, peer review, a final draft approval, a final accessibility test, and then a launch to the LMS in a pilot mode, and then on to the final live training that the agents could then access. So curriculum and content creation. Now we'll cover the process of curating the content, receiving the curriculum material, and organizing it into the training authoring tool. So I would begin with a brainstorming spreadsheet in the lesson planning tools. This helped them build learning objectives. And then I also provided a complete form that they could fill out and let me know what would be coming, this way I just wouldn't miss anything, any files that they would be sending me. And I'll show you that in a moment. I also provided suggestions for how they can deliver the materials, whether it be PowerPoint, Word. They could hyperlink to different resources or other curriculum that they had previously created. I suggested creating infographics and definitely using visual materials. The stock media is, there was a lot of stock media that I would curate and include in the trainings. However, they definitely would review and approve any stock images or videos that I would create. This is just a close-up of the brainstorming sheet. So within the initial consultation, we would use this to write down some of the objectives, immediately write down an assessment question that could correlate with that, and then align that with the competency. So this is the course development plan, and it was a very detailed form that provided the SME a way to fill out the objectives for each module, assessment questions immediately after that, and then moving on to the curriculum and content that they would want to include. And then if they had hyperlinks to resources, there's also a page where they could fill in any citations that they wanted to keep up or reference any materials they wanted to keep up with. It's a fillable PDF form, and it provides a way for the SME to keep content organized, keep track of what they've delivered to the instructional designer, and most importantly, verify that they are aligning the content to the objectives and the assessment. So a style guide is common in developing any marketing or communications projects. This keeps the project design consistent and supports retention of the material. So I did the same thing with the e-learning, the fonts, sizes, brandings, color, button uses. By no means did this hold each course to look exactly the same, but there were many elements that would carry over consistently throughout all the courses. And this would keep consistency and help the learner anticipate what the training would be like. So I want to go more in depth in the storyboard and transcripts. So the transcript is one of the first elements that needs to be completed and reviewed. Once a layout is created, the SME can visualize the flow of the module. The audio and changes to the narration will determine exactly what is going on in each slide, or each scene and each slide throughout the training. For time efficiency and streamlined workflow, as many corrections and changes on the front end of audio narration need to be made before recordings are started. All the transcript determines these things, determines the closed captioning, it determines the animation timing, it determines the background music, it also determines the final professional voiceover recording. So all these things you don't want to have to go back and edit if the transcript gets altered. It is not necessarily the instructional designer's responsibility. However, it is good practice for the ID to support the SME in multimedia suggestions. These are tools that support motivation and learning retention. It also helps with stimulating prior knowledge. The quality of audio and visuals is also very important to keep attention. Again, if there is an interest, there will be retention. Suggestions for embedding videos, interactive knowledge checks, infographics, and audio can bring a training module from a simple slideshow to an engaging story. In Articulate 360, the software provides an excellent review process where the reviewer can make immediate comments, and it's automatically shared with the author and anyone else reviewing the training. So it's a very interactive, shared document that any of the team members can go in and comment on the review process. There's also a checklist that I've provided in the toolkit as a type of rubric to follow. This helps with all team members. Some other review tools that you might want to consider are maybe combining some different rubrics. There's Quality Matters review standards. Blackboard course has a program rubric. We've also used the Oscar course quality review, but even any combination of these can work as well. And then I've also provided just a checklist for each SME. If they wanted to give this to a peer for them to review their course, that's also an easy option. So I to just evaluate simplicity. Kirkpatrick's evaluation approach is an excellent, simple way to look at things. Did they like it? Did they learn it? Will they use it? Will it matter? And is there a return on investment? Love challenges, be intrigued by mistakes, enjoy effort, and keep on learning. Thank you, everybody, for watching my presentation. Again, it's a pleasure to be here, and I look forward to the rest of the convention.